Speaking of Steve Stawning, did you get your shit sandwich book?
Yeah.
When did you get yours?
Yesterday, I think.
Yeah, I think mine came yesterday. Mine came the day before, but I didn't check the mail.
Well, it looks like we're live now, so maybe we should stop talking smack about Steve.
Oh, man.
Or kick it up a notch. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's just keep kicking up a notch. So, Bryce, welcome aboard. Today we've got Bryce. He is with Autosoft, CEO over there?
Yeah, CEO, owner.
And you've been head deep in the DMS game since what age?
Maybe 5 or 6. I don't know.
I think we've got I'll pull it up here real quick. How old were you here in this photo?
Oh yeah, I was probably like 17 or 18 there.
Look at that. So who wrote this article?
I don't know. I bet it was what is that?
Laura Hines.
Auto Exec?
Yeah.
19. I wanted to show you. Go to the ADP's part of it.
Is that down below?
Yeah, it might be. Hold on 1 second.
ADP Dealer Services.
Yeah,
just above, don't be left in the dust.
Yeah. Let's see.
I see.
That's UCS. If you zoom in on those screens, they still look the same today.
It's the same computer too.
Same office at UCS.
I think that guy's still there too.
Probably same computers. Does look familiar. So this article was 1994. Man, 1994 in the DMS world. It's like nothing's changed since then.
Yeah.
Well, at least with the Giants, right?
Yeah, still the same game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, go ahead.
You know, I do want to pay you a little respect, Bryce. You deserve it. Because I got involved with Refresh Fridays upon sort of returning back to Dealer Refresh full time, as I had a few years there where I was working for Dealer.com, then Dealer Track and Cox, and it didn't make sense to be as vocal or free, let's say. I didn't have the liberties that I like to have with Dealer Refresh. So once I got back involved, one of the first things I said to Jeff was, we have got to do a DMS show, and we can't do it with CDK or Reynolds. They're just so giant. They're caught in this corporate echo chamber that they've really lost touch with reality, in my opinion. Having experienced that myself, I feel like I can say that. Whereas Autosoft, you guys are, feet on the ground. You're still talking to dealers, so you know exactly what's going on in the world. And Autosoft for me goes way back to my checkered flag days, where we would, when it came recontract time with ADP back then, we would go out and look around at what was out there, and Autosoft came up every time, and we looked very hard at you guys, and always wanted to head down that path. It's just there'd always be some sort of financial statement or something that just held it up and couldn't make the jump. But then, of course, I ended up being a part of Dealer Track when they acquired Dealer.com. You guys were on the radar big time as a competitor. So, just Autosoft. So through the years, even though I didn't know you directly, but knew of you and had great respect for what you guys do. And so another thing real quick, and one of the big burning things that I want to get to the bottom of, and I'm sure our audience does as well, is what are the mysteries and the problems with DMS? And I feel like, Bryce, you're probably one of the few people who can really answer that, because you've been around it for what, 30, how many years?
Yeah, 30. Actually, just last year, it's our 30th year. So.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, and that article that you were looking at a little earlier, I mean, that was back then. There were only a few small players like us, you know, that were pretty much one of the only ones left still in the game today.
What got you into it, Bryce?
Well, really, I mean, my dad started out, he was a custom programmer back then, and PCs were first coming out, you know, network PCs. And, you know, we had a dealership down the street that knocked on our door and said, "Hey, I heard you were a custom programmer, and I need some custom things done that Reynolds won't do. And I've been asking them forever, and they just won't do it." So he built a little product for them pretty much overnight. And they said, "Wow, that's like, if you can do that fast and that good, and you can do it like pretty much rebuild everything we have and do it more, you know, more efficient and have everything networked together." Back then it was all, you know, dumb terminals and floppy disk between departments and all that kind of stuff. And so that's what he did. And they kind of helped him, you know, they were kind of his product manager back then, and told him, you know, what the system needed to do, and got it going. So that was really, for a lot of years, you know, we were just here regional. And then, you know, sometime in the basically early 90s, we started to distribute the product across the US, and grew pretty quickly over the 90s and 2000s. And that brings us to today, which now we're going through the whole same thing again. We're rebuilding our product from the ground up, new technology. Yeah, so it's a huge project we've been working on for about 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So rewriting a DMS takes some years of work. So that's the first part in complexity.
Oh yeah.
Why there aren't a ton of players in that marketplace.
Why do you think? I mean, you know, if it hasn't, a lot of the DMS companies been around since the 80s, and really they haven't done anything to really update. I mean, every now and then they'll throw something new out there. It's basically a skin over the original, a little bit more functionality from a web standpoint. What is about the technology? Why does it take so long, or why is it so difficult to get a DMS updated? And, you know, you've already working on yours for 3 or 4 years. What, you know, and excuse, you know, my ignorance, because when it comes down to DMS, as long as I've been in the automotive industry, I've sort of shied away from the DMS because, like, this is so generic. It's so, you know, and I just don't want to be a part of this. I mean, I can definitely navigate my way through Reynolds and through CDK, but, you know, when it comes down to the technology portion, I really don't know much about it. So why does it take so long?
Yeah, there's a few reasons. I mean, I guess start with why no one else has really tried to tackle this. I mean, I think Reynolds did years ago, and I think I'd heard they had about, I don't know, somewhere between $70 and $100 million invested in a project that they scrapped it. And there were a lot of reasons why, and we actually kind of learned from some of those reasons, and we're mindful we don't recreate some of those same pitfalls. But I think just in the industry, I mean, if you go back to that article from 1994, I mean, there were a few giants, and those giants are still in place today. And if you have 80% of the market, there's not a lot of reason to recreate what you already have as like a core DMS product. And, you know, the revenue game is always to go after the next shiny thing. So, you know, buy up another product, buy up another company, and go out and keep growing through acquisitions and revenue growth that way, and kind of milk that product for as long as you can, because it's you know, it's kind of that core that you can add on all these other products, and that's the area that you're going to hold all that data and transactions through. So I think that's why, you know, no one else, there's a huge barrier to entry. So as far as new entries, I mean, you can't really just walk in and start to talk to an OEM about integrations and getting certified. You know, even back then, I mean, we had to prove out, you know, you have to have like at least 20 some customers actually using your system before they'll even talk to you about getting certified for integrations. So that's always been a barrier. And, back then, in the 90s, we had a lot of good dealers, especially out through the Midwest. And, a lot of them would get together and say, Autosoft's this great system. It's a new entry. And they'd actually go to the OEMs and their zone reps and say, hey, you got to give them a chance and get them in your program. And things were a little easier back then. And it's gotten a little more difficult as years have gone by.
What's made it more difficult?
I think just complexity. Back then, they probably weren't as concerned about all the data that they want to manage today and all the, all the things that the OEMs want to be able to have a handle on and manage through their operations. So I just think even back then in the 90s, the points of integration were a lot fewer than they are today. Today there's 20 some points, and it takes us, it can take us a team, several, 3, 4, 6 months to build out those integrations. So,
Yeah,
what are some of the integrations you're referring to?
Primarily, you got the core, basic OEM integration. So, financials and parts and all the transactions. So that's the majority of it. But there's, they keep adding on more things that they want to have access to.
Right. So some of our audience might not fully appreciate that there are multitudes of ways to show a financial statement. So the dealer is going to look at it his or her way, and the OEM wants to see it a different way. And they might do it differently for a 20 group sharing or something along those lines too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of complexities around that alone.
What about, the whole debacle around with, I guess, Reynolds started it and then came over with UCS ADP with the, the dealership's data, who owns the data. What's your guys' approach with that? That's been a huge piece of news in our industry. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think UCS is still being sued by some of the big players. I believe Cox was involved in that lawsuit as well. What's your guys' approach with consumer data, and who owns it? Is it dealership or is it Autosoft?
It's definitely the dealership. Yeah. Our system helps process and use that data to help the dealership improve their business. But, at the end of the day, they created all those transactions and brought all that data into the system. So, they need that data to carry on even when they move to a different system or they add on a third party. That data is all accessible to them.
What's the strategy? Why do you think the big players are taking this approach? What's the number one reason? Why are they fighting the dealerships and saying it's our data, not your data? And then of course charging dealerships big money in order to access it. And
the vendors big money to access it too.
Yeah, that's
quite the sham.
It is the vendors, and then the vendors, it trickles down to the dealership.
Yeah. Well, same thing as what I mentioned earlier. When you kind of run out of you've penetrated the market about as much as you can, and create some new revenue streams through different products, or data is one of them. And I know there's billions of dollars out there in data. They've just begun to start to go down that path, and that's kind of that next evolution, is getting into more of the data and controlling it and selling it. We consume a lot of data too. Unfortunately, it's from a lot of our competitors. In our industry, you guys know, our competitors own DMS companies, and they own, every other kind of product you can think of. And so sometimes that's hard for us to get around some of those barriers to, pricing and the access that we need to some of that data to help our customers.
What about with the OEMs? I mean, a lot of them have their alliance with the different OEMs, and you know, if you're in maybe a Toyota dealership or Mercedes dealership, I mean, you're almost forced to use some of those bigger DMS systems out there.
Yeah, like in which way you mean forced? Like,
Well, I mean, how do you guys, I mean, you know, what manufacturers do you work with, and how would a dealership that, you know, maybe wants to go around that, what would be some words of advice?
yeah, I mean, we work with all the domestics. We have integration DCS with all of them right now, except for the higher lines like Land Rover, Jag, Mercedes, BMW. We're actually working on BMW now. And the only reason for that for us is, you know, in the past, we haven't really penetrated as many larger groups. So typically, you know, the groups are the ones that are going to have those high lines as part of that group. So we haven't had as much of a demand to have those DCS points. So we're just now getting all those in place. But as far as, you know, the dealers, you know, wanting to open up the market to have smaller DMSs be an option, I mean, I would say they need to go to their OEM and their 20 groups and you know, talk about all the other options out there and help vendors like us, you know, get some more attention from the OEMs and get us in their programs.
Get in there and start bitching about it. Yeah.
Yeah. This drives up the cost. I mean, without competitive, you know, landscape and more options and just keeping everybody honest. I mean, it's good for the OEMs, good for the dealers. Competition's good.
So you're in the process of, what do you want to call it, a rewrite, or is it almost a whole new product from the ground up?
Yeah, it's from the ground up. We call it a rewrite here, but it's really ground up. Yeah. Yeah.
So you are building, let's put this in perspective real quick. You're building a DMS in 2018, all right, which sounds awesome. Wish more of that was going on. And building let's call it a 40-year-old fresher DMS. What does a modern DMS look like?
Yeah, that's part of what, you know, we have a really great opportunity to change what a DMS looks like. You know, our first MVP product we push out in 2019 is when we'll have our first full platform pushed out to the market. We have part of it out today. So we have our new platform is sales and F&I and inventory management. That's out there now. All of our customers use the new platform. And so as you know, as we build out accounting, parts and service, we'll finish that up in 2019 and start to get customers using the whole platform. But after that, I mean, we're already adding in some things that are CRM functionality that, you know, most CRMs today have always been a bolt-on because of how they've been either acquired or integrated. And what we want to do is make CRM functionality simple and make it part of every role and every part of the dealership. It should just be part of the workflow and the process. And it should be like second. It should just be happening without you really having to do a lot to make it happen.
Yeah, I don't believe that currently exists, does it?
No. Everybody talks about it, like how great that would be, but you have to have, you know, a DMS would have to build it from the ground up, and that's the only way you're really going to truly get it.
Can you imagine how more efficient a dealership could be if everything rolled up into the DMS seamlessly? Your CRM, inventory, just
even your website.
Yeah, it would just, I mean, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah, how many separate systems in a dealership do you have to use?
We probably have at least 100 plus.
Yeah, and a lot of it's even
50 of them that we use every day.
Yeah, and a lot of them are just little. I mean, they're small. Like they're small products that should just live, you should just be able to do a lot of that workflow in one place.
Yeah. Of course, it would probably put a lot of companies out of business, because how many services out there are actually built on workarounds with the DMS?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's quite a few, which always kills me, but there's quite a few companies out there that provide reporting. We'll go into your DMS, we'll pull out all the data, and we'll throw up this nice, pretty report that you can actually take action on. And, to spend thousands of dollars a month on something like that the DMS should already be able to provide, and they do, it's just bad. The data is just not laid out correctly. It's not actionable.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys provide something like that with your reporting?
Yeah, that's our plan is to, we hear the complaints all the time. We've had some product advisory sessions with both customers and non-customers, and some of them even come in and say, CDK's reporting, it's there may be a way to get all the reporting out that you need, but it's just very difficult, and sometimes it takes customization, or you have to pay a fee to get what you need. And so just having a report generator that's really easy and intuitive, that people can just get everything they need the way they want it, more modern reporting than what you can find out there. So, and I think that's technology limitations is really the only reason you don't see that today.
Well, there's always going to be, and there's a comment on Facebook from Mark asking
about say that.
Reynolds already having some of that functionality, and yes and no. Yeah, you can have an email engine inside a DMS system and whatnot, but that email engine might not be as robust as maybe something that you've experienced in Gmail or something along those lines, and you need that extra feature function. And that's why some of these smaller companies who might do this niche thing a lot better continue to exist and thrive.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying, I guess Mark's saying that Reynolds Contact Management is, I guess he's asking, or he says it already does have some of that functionality with websites and Ignite.
Well, there is, again, to that point I just made, is you've got functionality on paper, and then you've got daily use. So I have yet to meet a dealer who enjoyed working in Reynolds Contact Management.
Yeah, me either. Although I think, was it John Quinn? John Quinn was
John Quinn was an ADP guy.
Oh, okay.
He's the one guy I know who made the ADP CRM work.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
And I was on it for years too. I couldn't make it work. So
I'm glad I never had the opportunity.
Yeah, that's a part of my life I don't miss. But we digress a little bit here. And it's easy to do when you start talking about ADP, CDK, and Reynolds. Yeah, they definitely trigger that frustration fire. So what's it like competing against them?
It's fun. Definitely fun. The thing is, if you really ask, no one really likes CDK or Reynolds. It's just there haven't been a lot of options, and I think they've just had the market so long, and they've had just a lot of brand strength and consistency for so long that a lot of dealers just are afraid to consider other options. And
you think it's brand strength, or is it just fear?
Yeah, well, it's fear. It's, there's the fear of switching for sure. There's the fear of the unknown. What if I don't have or get everything that I need or that I'm used to?
Mm-hmm.
And they're good at, they're good at making that as far as brand strength. They're good at kind of perpetuating that fear. Because the first time somebody, mentions that they're thinking about leaving, I think they kind of throw a lot of FUD, into the dealer's mind, or the somebody's mind that's thinking about it. And a lot of it's just not true.
Yeah, they never try to scare that service manager who's got 40 years in on it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, the demographics alone, I mean, there's so many people in the industry that have been using those systems for so long, and you know what it's like to change. I mean, when you're, you know, even when you're younger, like I'm younger, but I mean, there are times when change can be tough, right? But I mean, you get comfortable and you get up there in age, like that's the last thing you want to think about. So,
Well, you know, you and I were on the phone earlier this week, and you made a great point that, and you believe, and I buy into your belief that there's a younger generation. There's always a younger generation, but there's a generation, our generation, that is coming up who is very comfortable with technology and very comfortable with moving along with the innovations that it brings.
yeah.
And you're building your new system with that in mind, right?
Yeah. A lot of that same, you know, it's built with the same UI, same UX that, you know, you and I would use outside of, you know, business in our personal lives, you know, so just that modern, intuitive, type of system that you really can't get out of a DMS today. I mean, there've been some that, you know, they've kind of lipstick on a pig, you know, they've kind of rewrapped some stuff and made it look nice, but there's still a lot of, like, behind the scenes, there's just still a lot of issues and shortcomings. So, you know, we're taking that into mind as we build out the new product, and really making it so that that younger generation, that next evolution of the demographic in the dealership, I mean, if they had their option of, you know, an old system that looks like it was built in the 1980s or 90s compared to something new that's really, really slick and smooth to use, and you know, that alone helps make that decision a lot easier.
What about mobile?
Yeah, big focus on mobile too. Yeah, where it fits, where we need it. I mean, we're going to have a big push for mobile, and then right size it, you know, between different sizes of devices for different types of roles or workflows. And yeah, it's something we're pretty focused on.
Yeah, you have to be today. Yeah, we've got some good comments coming in. Derek was talking about, you know, some of the shock and fear that dealers tend to get thrown in their face from the potential of switching by CDK or Reynolds. But the truth is those dealers are only using 30% of the product anyway. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we see that all the time.
They only know how to use 30% of the product.
Yeah.
They're paying for 100%. So that's the other thing is, I mean, the cost difference is crazy. I mean, it's everybody's overpaying for a lot of technology and thinks that it's going to do magic. And, you know, it's really just, it comes down to how you use it.
Yeah. When I see the invoices, and I know, you know, looking at, because we've looked at Autosoft here at the younger group a couple of times throughout the years, I've seen the different, you know, opportunities to save a shit ton of money. But a lot of the dealerships, like you said, they sort of stick with what they've had. And I'm like, man, that's not a couple $1,000s a month. I mean, it's some huge savings.
Well, dealers don't recognize. So to your point, I'm very passionate about this. As talking to a few dealers, they haven't looked into it or fully appreciate that. Let's say a dealer spends $6,000 a month per store just on the DMS technology alone with CDK Reynolds. I think that's kind of the average. Sound about right?
Yeah, that's about
That
right.
doesn't include the paper, which I got a question around that one for you later. But just on the software alone, it's like $6,000. So then let's say they want to go get a CRM solution or a website solution. That's another $2,000 per month per solution. And then those solutions need to go in and pull the inventory, maybe pull customer records or service records out of the DMS. And the DMS is charging a certification fee that's, let's just call it hundreds of dollars a month per store back to the vendor. So I'm a dealer and I'm spending, let's call it 10 grand just to have my variable operations softwares, my website, my CRM, maybe some inventory, and my DMS. And then on top of that, I don't realize that I'm actually spending a couple hundred of that is just straight up profit more to a certified DMS integration, just because there's this hostile word that's been thrown around there regards to security.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, we have there's a 6-store group that we're working on right now, and there was CDK, and so we went through all their invoices, and they don't even have a lot of integrations as far as they don't use as far as their size goes, they don't use a lot of third parties, but we figured out they're paying around $3,000 a month just in integration fees for their third parties that they didn't really understand until we sat down and broke it all down. So that alone, I mean, it's just a huge savings. And, you know, we're walking in, you know, comparing things, looking at saving them, you know, hundreds of thousands per year, just because they've, you know, locked in the contracts years ago that they were really just overpaying, you know, for each of their stores.
That's insane. I know we've got a few services where I believe we're paying almost, if not more, for the integration point than what the actual monthly cost for the services alone.
Yeah,
it's robbery.
big time. I hate to use the word disruption, but this is a place where it's badly needed.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Autosoft. It sounds like that's what you guys are trying to do. Maybe a little bit disrupt the DMS world.
Well, you guys are a disruptor just being there.
Yeah, we're definitely a thorn in their sides. I mean, you know, we've probably, I know we get in situations where, I mean, just us being considered, I know we drive the price and cost down from CDK and Reynolds just because they have to, you know, they've gotten to the point where they've lost so much business to, you know, vendors like us. And of course, DealerTrax, you know, I think has done well recently, and just more competitive. So, you know, they're not able to walk in anymore and quote, you know, $6,000 a month. They have to come down closer to our pricing. So I kind of see that as, I mean, we're definitely causing them some pain. So you can see that even in, I think CDK yesterday let go a whole nother round of VPs, you know, that have been with the company for a long time. So I know they've been, you know, kind of, especially in our, you know, smaller dealership market that we play really well in. I know they've been, you know, bleeding quite a few customers.
What other DMS companies are out there? So you got Autosoft, you got CDK, you got Reynolds, DealerTrack has theirs. What else is out there?
There's Automate, or I don't know, is Automate CDK?
I thought they acquired one of them.
Yeah. Well, Dealer Mate, right? Was an acquisition by CD Dealer Made, yeah. And then Dealer Built.
Yeah, there's Dealer Built. Yeah.
They're their own company though, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, like in our industry.
Dealer Peak is another one, yeah.
Thanks,
Sean Long.
CRM. Yeah.
I think that's just CRM though, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. Like as far as like this, I'd say like the 6 or 8 of us that are in the DMS space. I mean, if you look at the ownership of every company, I mean, you know, I'm second generation. You know, been at it 30 years, younger, putting a lot of investment in this new platform, and a lot of these other guys are, you know, in their 60s, and you know, like Automate. I mean, they tried to sell out to CDK, and you know, even Reynolds and CDK are, you know, going to sell here eventually. So
that's right. Automate got blocked, didn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I know there's been some I should say some forward-thinking DMS providers out there that have been gobbled up by one of the two, and
Yeah.
then shelved, and they were superior products.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex, you've had to live through some of that.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I helped dealer.com build a CRM, and that definitely took some time and effort. So I still, to this day, though, I still struggle with why it's difficult to build a DMS. And why, and to our point, and the reason we're bringing up and all these your competitors is not to endorse anybody. It's more just to say there aren't many.
Yeah.
And there's obviously some significant complexities in building a DMS, and that's why we're stuck with most of them, or sorry, not most of them, but two of them being solutions from 1983.
Yeah.
I love the 80s. What are you talking about?
Some good music. But I still am struggling to really appreciate why it's difficult to build one from scratch. I understand the long build time. That makes all the sense in the world. But what is it really that's in the core of the DMS itself that makes it hard to build one from scratch?
I mean, there's a lot of integrations. That's a huge barrier, just all the amount of integrations, not just the OEM integrations, but, you can't build right off the bat. I mean, you can't just build something and have, everything you need all in one. So you have to build out all those integrations to make it all work. But as far as like an existing DMS vendor that, like, why hasn't anyone else really done it? I know Sandy Drome is working on like DealerStar, I think is her product. And she's been working on that for probably, I think maybe 10 years now. I know there's been some investors along the way, and it's just such a vertical market, and it's so saturated with, the CDK and rentals business that, for anyone to come from the outside, even as an investor, and look at it and decide, this is something we want to invest in and there's an opportunity here. I mean, there's a huge opportunity, but I think the passion that, we have, growing up in it and already being in the market, I think that makes all the difference. And kind of it's really a lot of patience. I mean, the amount of time it takes, the amount of investment you have to put into it. And I think most people don't have that patience.
That makes it so. It's a gigantic opportunity after a long bout with patience.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. So from an investor standpoint, you'd have to have an investor with deep pockets who was willing to just go for the long haul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a long game for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not easy.
I understand that.
I wouldn't want to do it. I know, Alex, whenever you expressed your want to build a CRM, I'm like, oh, go for it, bro. Yes.
I still want to do that.
I know. So with with your API and such, what's your stance on that? I mean, again, your larger service providers, they shy away, and of course they want to charge dealerships and vendors extra money, in order to hook up to that API. What's your philosophy around that? And do you work with the dealerships? Do you encourage them to find different products out there that can tie into Autosoft? And what's some of the different, or maybe larger providers that you work with strategically?
Yeah, well, our APIs, we're very open. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we have about 170 partners that are integrated today. And we always tell our customers, if there's one out there that you want to get integrated and use our APIs, we tell them, just send them to us and we'll work with them. And, there's some minimal fees. I mean, we have to charge a little bit to those third parties just to get into the integration, because there's a little bit of work on our side to manage it and get it all set up and tested. And, but our fees are like just, pennies or fractions of what CDK and Reynolds charge. And so it keeps things pretty competitive that way too. And, CDK and Reynolds, I mean, we've had third parties come to us that started out there because that you would think that if they get that integration first, that opens up a pretty big market for them. Mm-hmm. And they usually come back and say, hey, we kind of gave up on the integration with CDK. Let's start out with you first because your fees are a lot lower and you can help us out more, because, I think a lot of times, maybe CDK and Reynolds want to try to financially just make it a disadvantage, so that the third parties have a hard time really getting established and maybe be competitive someday.
Well, they claim that's not the case, especially CDK and what they announced at NADA with the program. I can't remember how to pronounce.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But that got a lot of hype at NADA. I haven't heard a word about it since.
Is that the one Cliff Banks was referring to not too long ago?
Well, I caught it out of some Bryant Pash promotion, or not promotion, but some of his updates. But yeah, Cliff, we talked to Cliff about it.
Yeah, I thought so.
Show here a few months ago. And
Fortellus. I think it's Fortellus.
Yeah, that's it. Fortellus. Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what that materializes into. And Cliff was also quick to say it's very early and it's more of an announcement than a product at this time. Yeah, Steve Stawning says down here the CDK Loves Everyone program. But Cliff on that show made a good point to, and I don't know if it's a good point. It's definitely an opinionated point that the CDKs and Reynolds of our industry have sort of put an insulating blanket on the car business, and that they've been able to, through their dealings, have kept out the Microsofts, kept out the Salesforce CRMs, some of these larger players that dominate other retail industries.
Yeah, you called it a blanket. That sounds kind of like cozy and warm. I was thinking more of a wall or a.
So it's good to get your opinion. That's where I was going with that. So you think it's a wall?
It sounds better than a blanket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, okay. Yep. All right. So I won't ask you to elaborate any further. But we'll go with that. So Cliff Banks has blanket. Bryce, you've got the wall. Got it.
Bryce says wall.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about their new Flex? I think it's Flex Drive or Drive Flex.
Is that the service program?
No, it's supposed to be a new DMS.
Oh, really?
Yeah, supposedly built from the ground up, but same thing. It's hard to really see any information on it.
Is that CDK?
Yeah, CDK.
Flex Drive.
No, the last thing I heard about, my family, I think, was going to try out a new service program with them.
Yeah, March 8th, 2018. Flex Drive includes user-friendly features, groundbreaking pricing model that flexes with unique business needs of dealerships.
Yeah, it's transactional pricing, so the more transactions you have, the more you pay.
Oh, all right.
And I'm sure there's a floor. If you do less, I'm sure there's a floor. So
yeah, I guess we'll see if this actually comes to fruition here.
Right. There's got to be a minimum in there. So another question for you, Bryce. What's more profitable, software or paper?
It depends on who you're asking. I would, software for sure. Yeah. We, Yeah, and we're actually in the forms business too, in a small level. But yeah, we're actually moving away from pre-printed forms, and yeah, everything needs to go digital. So
Yeah, agreed. Save the Amazon.
yeah,
Rainforest, that is.
Yeah, years ago we got into it because, you know, we had Reynolds in every one of our dealerships trying to sell forms and also trying to sell everything else. So we got into forms just to keep them out of our customers' dealerships and to sell forms at a much more reasonable price. So that's why we're still in it today. But
Do you
I'm reading
have
up
a special proprietary printer?
yeah.
Is it $12,000 for the printer?
I think it's 13.
Oh, okay.
I'm reading up here on that Flex. I get so it's a DMS AAS. So it's I guess it's web based. Is that where you're going with Autosoft?
Oh yeah, it's all web based.
Everything's web based. Man, that'll be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, who else is truly web based? I mean, I think there's some out there that say they're web based, but I don't think they're completely web based.
Well, if you can open it in IE6 or IE5, that's web based.
Yeah.
But
God forbid you try to upgrade that Internet Explorer.
Yeah, you're screwed.
Oh yeah.
And then one manufacturer you have to upgrade it, or you have to update your Java, and then but if you do the update, then it's going to crash something else.
Yep.
Go in, uninstall it, reinstall it. What a mess.
Yeah. How many browsers does a dealer have to have now in order to be able to use all the programs they have to use?
Yeah.
I mean, I was getting back. What was and there used to be a time when you had like four different browsers, and I'm trying to remember what the fourth one I used was. Some really obfuscated one, because I was overseeing things for a dealer group, and so I had to have like Dealer Daily, which that was Toyota's program and needed to have its own browser, and then our CRM worked best in Firefox, and so did our website, and then ADP, of course, was like Internet Explorer, 5 versions ago, and whatever. Anyway,
I heard Firefox was making a small comeback. Is that true?
Yeah, they're definitely picking up a little bit of share.
Yeah,
Chrome's still king.
I haven't used it in forever. Yeah, I went over to Chrome. Really haven't looked back.
Yeah,
at least on desktop.
Yeah.
Well, at least until you have to use the DMS.
I have a whole separate computer for that.
Oh yeah,
my trade pending computer.
So,
Bryce, we definitely thank you very much for your time. I know DMS can sort of it's a touchy subject for some, but it's interesting to see where things are going. And definitely congratulations on the rebuild and getting that out there, and I guess disrupting the industry with that. So that's going to be exciting. I definitely think there's going to be a wave here, and it's only a matter of time before we see some big changes, especially on the DMS front. Every company any large company, a lot of times that what goes up must come down, and it's only a matter of time, and especially with just the new I guess the new generations coming in, the younger generation, and they're starting to take over the industry, and I think they're going to look past the CDK. I don't think they're going to play the games, hopefully not, and they're going to appreciate a more newer user interface, how to get things done, just the open-mindedness of a smaller DMS company such as yourselves. So I think it's exciting.
Yeah, that is. I think there's a lot of changes coming in the next few years. Like I say, even our competitors, I mean, I'm not sure if they're all going to be around, or I'm sure they're all going to go through some sort of transaction or acquisition.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of leaves us in a good position.
Absolutely. Well, that's always a trend for this industry is acquisition. So, well, don't sell out, man. Keep it going strong.
Yeah, keep it real. But at the same time, I want to throw an offer out to you to have Dealer Refresh as a platform to keep our audience in tune with what's going on with the DMS, and hopefully make our audience your clients at some point too. So,
yeah, I'd love that. Yeah, I'd love to come back and I don't know, give us maybe another 8 to 12 months, and I'd love to come back and show you where we're at.
That'd be fantastic. Maybe do a short demo or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We would definitely be up for that.
Yeah,
sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I had a great time. This is good.
Yeah, again, we appreciate it. Thanks for your time. So, do we have anything else, Alex? Any questions? One more shout out to Shit Sandwich before Steve has a little connection over there.
So that's 3 shout outs, Steve. All right. You might have missed one, but we got 3.
Start charging them for this.
So next week we've got Todd Smith, Active Engage.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Yep.
Haven't spoken to Todd for a while. Find out what he's up to. Yeah, Todd's always got something new up his sleeve. So always good. All right, man. Well, let's wrap it up. Again, thank you so much, Bryce. And we'll be here next Friday, same time.
Thank you, Bryce.
Thank you.
See y'all.